His Excellency, the President. You're welcome to give him a clap as he's walking in. Welcome, Your Excellency. Karibu sana. We shall remain standing with your permission, Your Excellency, for the two anthems, starting with the Kenyan anthem, followed by the East African anthem. The anthems. While we remain standing, Your Excellency, allow me to invite Pastor Ambassador Arthur Adambi to lead us in a prayer before we make progress with our session.
Let us bow our heads for a prayer. Baba yetu wa mbinguni, tunakushukuru kwa siku hii uliotujalia. Asante kwa kutusafirisha salama kutoka pembe zote za dunia na kutujumuisha hapa nyumbani Kenya. Tunaomba uwe nasi na utuongoze katika shughuli zote kwenye mkutano huu wa mabalozi. Aidha, tunawaombea wote watakaokuja kutufunza mambo mbalimbali. Zaidi ya yote, tunaiombea nchi yetu ya Kenya pamoja na rais wetu uendelee kutupa amani na umoja. Tunaomba haya yote tukiamini katika jina la Yesu Kristo aliye Bwana na mkombozi wetu, na sote tuseme amina.
Let us kindly take our seats. Your Excellency, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Kenya Defence Forces, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, Prime Cabinet Secretary and also Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, Cabinet Secretary for Health, Honorable Aden Duale, all principal secretaries present, led by PS Singoe and PS Rosalind Jogu, all senior government officials present, ambassadors, high commissioners, special envoys, and distinguished guests present. Your Excellency, allow me at this point to invite Honorable Singoe, Dr. Singoe, to lead us in the program from here. Let's give him a clap as he approaches the stage. Welcome, PS Singoe.
Your Excellency, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, the President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief. Your Excellency, the Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, Dr. Musalia Mudavadi. Excellency, Cabinet Secretaries, Excellency, Ambassadors, Chief Executive of Equity Bank, Dr. James Mwangi, and our friend Felix. Friends, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to say hamjambo. Good morning. Your Excellency, when ambassadors or when an ambassador is summoned, it's never quite good news necessarily. It is serious business. If you are summoned by your host state, it means there are serious there is serious information that you're being given. But if you're summoned by Capital for instructions, then most likely there are also very, very serious things to be discussed. Your Excellency, we summoned not an ambassador, but your ambassadors who are appointed by your hand to this conference. Yes, it is called the 19th convening, but for us, it is a coming together because we are in a way at a moment of reckoning. Reckoning, Your Excellency, because externally, the globe is going through tremendous challenges. Challenges that now compel us to think together as one about how we can protect our national interest. But again, Your Excellency, it's also a moment of reckoning because internally, through your leadership, you have summoned the nation to focus her attention to an extremely progressive agenda. And you have made the determination that you want to take this nation to a first world status within our lifetime. Now, Your Excellency, that's a gigantic task. And these, your ambassadors, stand in a place of uniqueness because they are your frontline soldiers with respect to the mobilization of resources and the curation of partnerships. That's the reason we are gathered this morning, Your Excellency, and over the next 3 days, to be able to agree together what our call of action is and how we must conduct our diplomacy in these intense and disruptive times. If you permit me, Your Excellency, we are already repositioning the way we do business within the foreign mission and within the foreign ministry. First, Your Excellency, with respect to diplomatic infrastructure across the globe, we have, at the moment, within 29 missions, well over 60 pieces of property. These pieces of property, they may be chancelleries, they may be head of mission houses, etc., etc. This infrastructure, Your Excellency, is not optimized. As a result, we are paying in excess of 15% of our recurrent expenditure, which is about 3 billion, towards rent. Over the last 1 year, Your Excellency, because of your leadership and your innovative ideas around financing, we are talking with National Treasury to develop a program for the optimization of these assets through the PPP framework. And I'm pleased, Your Excellency, to say that already about 10 of these properties are being pipelined for pilot development. Secondly, Your Excellency, on the economic diplomacy side, we are on the verge of rolling out a comprehensive program that would enable us to deal with the way we do our economic diplomacy differently. And that's why James Mwangi and Felix are here this morning, because we've been working around a partnership in that respect. Thirdly, Your Excellency, we are working with you in the agenda around positioning Nairobi as the global hub for multilateralism in the global south. In that respect, Your Excellency, late last year we commissioned a study to look at how other multilateral stations are conducting their business. What kind of privileges are they putting forward? You know, what kind of benefits, what kind of infrastructure and institutional arrangements have been put in place to ensure that these capitals can attract more diplomatic capital, you know, to their jurisdiction. As a result of that, Your Excellency, that study is now complete. We are revamping and reinvigorating our privileges and immunities framework. And for the very first time, towards the mid of this year, we will be convening a conference on privileges and immunities, bringing together over 400 organizations that already enjoy this status within our capital, and asking ourselves the question, number one, what are you doing for Kenya and with Kenya? And then number two, how better can we serve you? Lastly, Your Excellency, we are also pivoting towards the people. By that I mean making diplomacy less about sitting in hotels and more about service provision and about explaining why we do what we do in the way we do it to the people. We're working with young people through the Kenya Model United Nations program, as well as our diplomacy machinery to be able to advance that imperative. Your Excellency, that's how we are retooling our current toolbox, and it is our persuasion that with that and with your inspired leadership in the manner in which you have positioned our country, Your Excellency, our diplomacy will stand even more elevated. Allow me with those few words, Your Excellency, to yield the floor now to His Excellency, the Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, Dr. Uzalendo. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for Dr. Uzalendo.
Your Excellency, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces, my brother, the Honorable Duale, the Cabinet Secretary for Health, distinguished guests, diplomats, friends, ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellency, we are greatly honored by your gracious presence at the 19th edition of the Kenya Ambassadors Conference. Today is a Saturday. We have pulled you away from the field. So bear with us. For decades, we have maintained this noble tradition of convening core actors in our foreign policy formulation and implementation to reflect on our achievements, deliberate on the challenges that we face in the execution of our mandate, and most importantly, develop forward-looking and sustainable solutions that advance Kenya's national interests. The conference presents an annual opportunity for our envoys to engage at high level, including the appointing authority, His Excellency the President, our nation's chief diplomat, and to interact with leadership across all arms of government. Therefore, as the representatives of our President abroad, you will receive briefs and updates on key developments in the country. Furthermore, I encourage you to share your experiences with one another in the spirit of collegiality and the collective good of our country. Notably, the conference takes place at the time of remarkable foreign policy achievements under the administration of His Excellency, President William Ruto. Kenya has elevated its role in regional and global peace and security, enhanced participation in multilateral fora, advanced its niche, diplomacy in climate change action, and diversified bilateral partnerships that continue to unlock development opportunities for our country. Your Excellency, through our foreign policy, we continue to advance your administration's plan by negotiating and concluding bilateral agreements that support the following pillars of the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. First, the agricultural transformation. The Kenya-China Early Harvest Agreement, concluded in March 2026, grants duty-free, quota-free access for 98% of Kenyan agricultural products into the Chinese market. The Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, CEPA, removes tariffs on over 80% of goods, boosting trade in key agricultural exports such as tea and meat. Additional frameworks include the Kenya-EU Economic Partnership Agreement, the Kenya-Hungary Agriculture MOU, the Kenya-UK Partnership Agreement, and Kenya's engagement with the US under the African Growth Opportunity Act. On healthcare, the 2025 5-year Kenya-US Health Cooperation Framework marks a significant shift to direct government-to-government funding, strengthening programs on universal healthcare, UHC, malaria, TB, and HIV/AIDS. And today, I think in one of our main media outlets, Duale has put out a very spirited message on this particular issue. Several of these agreements are also broad in scope and contribute directly or indirectly to other better pillars, including housing and settlement, the micro, small, and medium enterprises, economy, and the digital superhighway and creative economy. Other notable agreements include Kenya-Mozambique in March 2026, which enhances digital transformation and expands opportunities for small-scale traders. The Italy Partnership, which supports youth empowerment and the creative economy in 2026. The Kenya-Ethiopia agreement, which promotes cross-border trade and growth of micro, small, and medium enterprises. We also have the Kenya-Senegal program in 2025 October, which advances youth and sports development, among others. Your Excellency, this is a brief overview of the Ministry's contributions to your economic transformation plan, delivered not in isolation, but with the whole of government framework. As a Ministry, we have made tremendous progress since the inauguration of your administration, the launch of the Kenya Foreign Policy and the sessional paper number 1 of 2025 presents renewed clarity in our external engagements. We have followed this milestone by adopting open diplomacy, including rolling out the Foreign Policy Mashinani initiative. This is an appreciation that Kenyan citizens, too, have a stake in advancing our foreign policy objectives. It also serves as a strategic platform to communicate our activities and achievements and mitigate against misinformation and disinformation. Your Excellency, we wanted to make sure that Kenyans are not foreign to their own foreign policy. We also have expanded our diplomatic footprint in 72 missions in strategic countries and regions. In doing so, we have ensured a more cost-effective, impactful, and strategic deployment of the limited resources at our disposal, including multiple accreditations and deployment of honorary councils. Your Excellency, your foresight in establishing for the first time in Kenya's diplomatic history a State Department for Diaspora Affairs was a transformative decision. Presently, Kenyan diaspora is at the center of government policy. Today, the safety, dignity, and welfare of our diaspora is more adequately and effectively safeguarded, despite increased cases of Kenyans in distress abroad due to the growing global turbulence. In addition to the 24-hour diaspora call center, our missions continue to provide consular services through the innovative mobile system. Your Excellency, through your support and strategic guidance, diaspora investments and remittances have vastly increased, making our diaspora a major contributor to national progress. The Diaspora Investment Support Office and the Diaspora Investment Strategy, launched in 2025, aim to enable the channeling of these remittances from predominantly household consumption to actual investments. We shall count on our ambassadors to continue engaging the diaspora on investment opportunities available back home. Finally, in today's evolving global landscape, the the continent is in need of a leading voice for African agency. As our envoys, we are called to shape the direction and future of African diplomacy. We must amplify that our president is the champion of the African Union institutional reform and chair of COMESA. We must also highlight Kenya's leadership in promoting the intra-African trade and the African Continental Free Trade Area. This conference should inspire our individual and collective commitment to safeguarding our national interests and advancing Kenya's national agenda for peace-centered prosperity. Our supreme enterprise is to enhance the brand Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen, I have already indicated that we have pulled His Excellency away from a very busy schedule, so I come to the end of my remarks. It is now my great honor to invite His Excellency the President to deliver his address and officially open the conference. Let us all be upstanding to welcome our President. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the Republic of Kenya.
Thank you very much. Please, let's take our seats. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm Jambo. We meet at a moment of profound change in the global order, an era marked by deep and often unpredictable disruptions. Today, long-standing multilateral frameworks that once anchored international cooperation are steadily eroding as new currents of unilateralism and sovereign-first doctrines emerge, reshaping both the terms and tone of engagements among nations. Recent developments, including the ongoing conflict in the Middle East, underscore how quickly tensions can disrupt economic stability. In such a moment, it is critical that we take a deliberate and collective pause to reflect with honesty and think with clarity about the world as it is becoming and our place within it. It is therefore a distinct honor for me to join you at this 19th Ambassadors Conference as you deliberate on how best to advance Kenya's interests in a rapidly evolving geopolitical landscape. I've had the opportunity to review your program for the next 4 days of this conference, and I am impressed by the breadth and depth. It reflects a comprehensive agenda that engages the full spectrum of our diplomatic priorities, from economic diplomacy and the realities of an emerging polycentric global order to peace and security, as well as climate diplomacy and green industrialization. It also covers science, technology, and innovation, global health diplomacy, and the oceans and blue economy, among other critical areas shaping our engagement with the world. My role today, therefore, is not to delve into the operational details of diplomacy, but rather to offer at least 4 broad-based imperatives that should frame and guide your deliberations. First, I want to appreciate that Kenya today approaches this engagement with the world from a position of far greater strength than was the case 3 years ago. By any credible measure, whether economic stability, fiscal discipline, our institutional resilience, the direction is unmistakable. Kenya is not only steady, but it is also on the rise. Consider, for instance, our sovereign debt position. 36 months ago, Kenya was counted among 6 African countries widely projected to default on their foreign debt obligations. 5 of those countries defaulted. Kenya did not. This is not by chance or luck. It was the outcome of deliberate and often difficult policy choices. We undertook necessary reforms by rationalizing expenditure, streamlining our budgets, and making tough decisions, including the removal of unsustainable consumption subsidies. Today, Kenya stands as the 6th largest economy in Africa, with a GDP of approximately $136 billion, and continues to register a steady annual growth rate of about 5%. The shilling, which was once in steep decline, has stabilized and remained steady against the dollar for the last 2 years at around 129 shillings to a dollar. We have also enhanced our foreign exchange reserves that stood at 2.5 months of import cover in 2022. Now we are at 7.5 months of import cover. We have moved our foreign exchange reserves from $5.7 billion to $14.6 billion this year. And in another couple of months, we should be anywhere around $16 billion. The recent upgrade of Kenya's sovereign rating by Standard & Poor's is another clear and credible affirmation of the confidence that global markets have in the direction we have taken. Equally, we have significantly reduced inflation, which was at about 9.6%, to an average of 4.3% today, further reinforcing the stability we have worked hard to achieve. In terms of investment, despite global headwinds, our foreign direct investment inflows in 2025 for the first time crossed the $2 billion mark. And just this week, in our Kenya International Investment Conference, we signed on to new investments in Kenya of $2.9 billion in 10 counties in Kenya. Investments from the United States, from China, from Australia, from India, from the UK, and different parts of the world, demonstrating that more companies across the globe have confidence in our economy and in the investment opportunities that exist in our country. And these were in different sectors, including agriculture, real estate, manufacturing, mining, energy, ICT, and business process outsourcing. These investments undoubtedly expands opportunities for employment for our young people in Kenya and contributes to tax revenues as well as our overall development.
Your Excellency, Dr.
This is what we mean when we say Kenya is ready and open for business.
of the Defense Force.
Today, Kenya is home to more than 300 multinational corporations. The fact that foreign investors are increasingly choosing Kenya, committing their capital, and backing our future should tell us something profound. It is a clear vote of confidence in the direction we have taken as a country, affirming that Kenya is getting our fundamentals right. Excellencies, these gains must be projected outward. This is the true measure of your work. You're called upon to articulate, position, and present to the world the full breadth of Kenya's potential, to tell our story with conviction and to translate that promise into partnerships that deliver tangible outcomes for the people of Kenya. The second point I want you to bear in mind is that this administration is firmly committed to fulfilling our commitments to the people of Kenya as is contained in our bottom-up transformation agenda manifesto. For the first time, we have demonstrated that a manifesto is not a piece of paper. It is not a newspaper. It is a document of governance and a covenant with the people. When I went to canvass leadership with the people of Kenya, we put out a very ambitious program for the development of our country. Many people thought we overpromised. In fact, last Sunday, I was somewhere in Homa Bay, and after the church service, there was supposed to be a communication by the bishops of that area. Initially, I thought it was about how they want to build the church and how they want to have more missionaries. But it was not that. It ended up being a political statement. And the bishop who read the letter on the behalf of the others said something very profound to me. He said, Mr. President, we all believed that you had overpromised. And we knew that this was the usual politicians talk when they are looking for votes. But he said, we have seen something different. And that is the case. We are re-engineering our nation,
diplomats, friends,
and we are re-engineering our political
Your
discourse.
Excellency, we are greatly honored
That
by your gracious presence at the
what
19th
leaders
edition
promise, they must
of
deliver.
the Kenya Ambassadors Conference.
That when we make
Today is a
commitments,
Saturday.
we must have the plan
Away from the field.
to execute
So
and
bear
to
with
make
us.
them reality.
For decades,
Today, I said with a lot
maintained
of
this
confidence,
noble
we made a
tradition
commitment
of convening
on matters of
co-actors
education.
in our foreign policy formulation
We had
and implementation to reflect
4
on our
fundamental
achievements.
difficulties
The deliberate
have
on the challenges that we face in the
a
execution of
CBC
our
that
plan.
wasn't working.
And most importantly,
We had a shortage of
to develop
teachers
forward-looking
that
and
was
sustainable
chronic.
solutions that
We had a
advance
shortage of
Kenya's
learning
national
spaces
interests.
that was serious.
The conference
And we had
presents an
a
annual
funding model
opportunity
for our universities
for our envoys to
that
engage
was
at high level
making our
including
universities, crippling actually our universities,
authority.
and making them
His Excellency the President,
insolvent.
our nation's chief diplomat,
Today,
Walking in, welcome, Your Excellency.
leadership across all
We have
levels.
closed the gap, literally.
Therefore,
on
as the
teacher
representative of our
shortage.
president abroad,
We've hired
you will receive
the
brief
highest number of teachers in Kenya's
and
history in
updates
3 years,
on key
100,000.
developments.
And we will be hiring
Furthermore, I encourage
another
you to share your
20,000 this
experiences
year
with one another
to make sure
in the
that
spirit of
every learner
and the collective
has
good of our country.
a good opportunity
Notably, the
to
conference
acquire
takes
knowledge.
place at the time of
With
remarkable foreign
partners,
policy
and on
achievements
this I want to
under
thank our
the
friends
administration of His Excellency
from the World Bank
President William Ruto. Kenya
and
has
members of
elevated its
parliament.
role in regional
have built
and global peace
23,000
and security, enhanced
new
participation
classrooms,
in multilateral fora,
expanding
advanced
learning
leadership,
spaces.
diplomacy
I
in
remember
climate change action,
last week I
and
was in Mount
diversified
Elgon,
bilateral partnerships that
and
continue
our
to
friends in
unlock development
Safaricom,
opportunities
M-Pesa
for our
actually,
country.
who
Your Excellency, through
had
our foreign
invited
policy,
me once,
we continue
to
to advance your
an academy
administration's
here
plan
in
by
Thika,
negotiating and
which was
concluding
their flagship.
bilateral agreements that
And
support
when I went to the
following
academy,
pillars
it
of
was
the bottom-up
a really,
transformation.
really high-class
First,
academy
the agricultural
with a
transformation.
swimming pool,
The Kenya-China Early Harvest Agreement concluded in
badminton,
March 2026 grants duty-free,
squash,
quota-free
that
access
thing they
for
play,
98%
squash,
of Kenyan
and all
agricultural
the other,
products into the Chinese market.
fancy and very high-quality stuff.
The comprehensive economic
But I then
partnership
advised them
agreement, CEPA,
when I went there
removes
that
tariffs
this
on
is
over
wonderful.
80%
It's
of
giving
goods,
close to
boosting
400
trade in key
of our
agricultural
young people
exports, such
good
as tea
opportunities
and
to
fish.
learn in a very
Additional
high,
frameworks include the
high-end
Kenya
institution.
EU Economic
But I told them they weren't
Economic
making as
Partnership
much
Agreement,
impact as
the
they
Kenya
would
Hungary Agriculture
if they
Agreement,
looked
the
beyond
Kenya-UK Partnership
one academy
Agreement,
in Nairobi.
and Kenya's engagement with the
I was
US
with them in
and
Mount
the
Elgon.
African
They had
Commonwealth
built
of Africa.
36
healthcare,
classrooms, and
The
they built
2025
actually literally a whole school
five-year Kenya-US
with
health
1,000
cooperation framework
plus
marks a significant
kids in Mount Elgon.
shift to direct
And
government funding,
the chair of the foundation
strengthening programs
was
for the
almost
class of
shedding
healthcare,
tears as
UHC,
he saw
malaria,
the
TB,
hope they
and
had built
HIV/AIDS.
in
And today,
very
I think in one of the
ordinary
main
children
media
in very remote
outlets,
places.
Duale has put
I'm
out
saying this to contextualize
message
what it
on
means
this
to
particular
have
issue.
learning spaces.
Several of these agreements are also
We
going
have
in scope and
reorganized
contribute directly or
the
indirectly
whole
to other
space
better pillars,
around
including housing and
competence-based
settlement,
education. We have engaged
the micro,
stakeholders
small,
afresh.
and medium enterprises, economy,
Teachers
and the
did
digital
not
superhighway
have
and
clarity.
creative economy.
Parents were complaining
Other notable
that they were
agreements
doing too much homework at
Kenya,
home.
Mozambique, in
But
March
finally, we
2026,
have found
which
a balance between
enhances digital
what parents
transformation
need to do,
and
what teachers
expands
need to do,
opportunities for small
what
scale
learners
leaders.
need to do,
The
and we now
Italy
have a fair
partnership,
balance.
which supports youth
And
empowerment
finally,
and creative economy,
we have put in place
2026. The Kenya
a funding model that is student-centered,
agreement which promotes
so
cross-border
that
trade and
we
the growth
assess
of micro,
every
small
student
and medium
on the basis
enterprises.
of need
We also have the Kenya-Senegal
and merit.
program in 2025 October, which advances youth and sports.
Today,
development
you ask
program.
any vice chancellor in any
Your
university in
Excellency,
Kenya,
this is a brief
They
overview
have
of
a
the
working
ministry's contributions to the
funding
economic transformation plan, delivered not in isolation, but with the whole
as I
of
said,
government framework.
we
As a ministry,
decided
We have made
to
tremendous
organize our
since the
agriculture.
inauguration of your administration, the launch
We
of the
had
Kenya foreign policy,
an agricultural
and the sessional
sector
paper
that
number
was
1 of
not
2025
run on the
presents
basis of
renewed
data.
clarity
So we did
in
the
our
first
external
thing to
engagement. We
register
have
all
followed
farmers
this milestone by
and put
adopting
them on a
open
digital platform.
diplomacy. including rolling out the foreign policy machinery.
Subsequently,
This is an appreciation
undertook
that Kenyan
all
citizens
other interventions on the
have a
basis
stake
of
in advancing our foreign policy
knowledge of
objectives.
our farmers.
It also serves
We now have a
as a strategic
database of
platform
7.2
to communicate our
million farmers
activities and
with
achievements
their
and
acreage,
mitigate
with
against
the
misinformation
crops they
and
undertake, with
disinformation.
their livestock,
Your Excellency, we want to
sugarcane
make sure
farmers,
that
tea farmers,
Kenyans
avocado
do
farmers,
not
and
correct
everything else in
their
between.
own foreign policy.
And
We also
today
have expanded
we
our
have
diplomatic
turned around
footprint in
our
72
productivity.
missions in
our
strategic
fertilizer
countries
subsidy
and
program
regions.
is working.
In doing so, we have
And
ensured a more cost-effective,
today,
impactful,
if you ask
and strategic deployment
of
of
the
the
farmers,
limited resources at our
they will tell
disposal,
you
including multiple
we have chased
implementations
all the
and
cartels
deployment
and the
of
brokers
honorary council.
and the middlemen.
Your Excellency, your
And we've done
foresight
the same
in establishing for the first time
in our
Kenya's
milk industry.
diplomatic history
We've done the
a
same
State Department for
in our
Diaspora
sugar
Affairs
industry.
was a
We've done
transformative
the same
decision.
everywhere else.
Presently,
So
Kenyan
we have
diaspora
digitized
is
our
the
farming.
center of government policies.
We have gotten rid of
Today,
cartels.
The safety,
We
dignity,
are
and welfare
getting it right
of our diaspora
today.
is more adequately
And yesterday I was in
safeguarded.
Kiambu,
Despite increased
and
cases
the coffee farmers there will tell
Kenyans
you
in distress abroad,
that coffee, which they were selling for between 50 and 70 shillings a kilo, today they are selling it at between 120 and 150 shillings a kilo.
our mission continue to provide consular services.
The sugarcane farmers will tell you the same story.
Your Excellency, through your
Sugarcane
support
farmers
and
used to be paid
guidance,
after anywhere
diaspora
between
investments and remittances have vastly
6
increased,
months and 1 year.
making our diaspora
Today,
a major
sugarcane farmers are paid every 7 days.
The Diaspora Investment Support Office and the Diaspora Investment
That is what
Strategy
transformation looks like
launched in 2025
in practice.
aim to enable the
So,
channeling of these remittances from
we still have
predominantly
some work
household
to do.
consumption to actual
And I'm
investment.
saying this so that
To count on our ambassadors
you don't fall prey
on
to
investment.
the shenanigans in the social media.
Finally, in
If
today's
you read the
evolving
social
global
media,
landscape,
you will think
the
Kenya is
continent
going to
is in
collapse
need
tomorrow.
of a leading voice for African agency. As our envoys, you are called
we have
to shape the direction and future of Africa.
undertaken some most consequential
We must amplify
undertakings
that our president is the
in
champion
the space
of
around
the African Union institutional reform and chair of
you all
UNESCO.
know,
We must
and
also highlight
statistics
Kenya's
stand
leadership
out
in
to it,
promoting
that
intra-African
every
trade
year
and the African
close to 1
continental
million
free
citizens
trade area.
ended up in poverty
This conference
because of
should
hospital bills.
inspire our individual and collective commitment
And
to
health
safeguarding
was
our
slowly
national
becoming
interest
a
and
privilege
advancing Kenya's
for those who
national
can
agenda
afford, rather
for
than
peace,
what
centered
Article
prosperity.
43 of the
Our
Constitution
supreme
says,
enterprise
that it is
to
a right
enhance the
for every
brand
citizen.
Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen,
That was one of the most difficult subjects we had to
I've already
address ourselves
indicated
to.
that we have
It took us almost a
the
year
presidency away
of
from a very busy schedule.
trying to figure out how this was going to happen, but finally we passed 4 pieces of
It
legislation,
is
actually
now
5,
my
and the
great
6th
honor
one is on the way,
to invite
to
His
underwrite
Excellency the President
and to underpin our health transformation. Today, we have 30 million plus Kenyans registered in SHA. The story there is very different. There are less and less harambes on matters health. We have more and more testimonies of people who are saying, SHA paid for me 20,000, 100,000, 500,000, 1 million, and on and on. And this is not just in towns, in villages and everywhere else. It is probably one of the largest undertakings that any administration has taken because it's a very difficult space. But I'm very, very confident that finally we have the right template to undertake universal health and finally make health truly a right for every citizen. We have also, by way of making sure that we do what we committed to the people of Kenya. On matters young people, you know, every family, every region of Kenya, because we are a nation of young people, have young people out of school, out of college, and they do not have jobs. And this is everywhere. You go to every town, you go to every city, you go to every village, and that's the case. And we've had this conversation many years, you know, that the economy is going to expand, and therefore we are going to create jobs. But jobs can not.
While we remain standing, Your Excellency,
there is intentional, deliberate, practical interventions. So we decided to do 5 things. Number one, we undertook the housing program, not just to have decent living conditions and housing for our citizens, but also as a means of creating opportunities for work. As you all know, it was one of the most difficult things to do because it involved, you know, a framework where we had to contribute. And so, if you read in the Azimio Manifesto, there was housing. In the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto, there was housing. But when it came to the implementation, there was a big problem. Nobody wanted to do it. And we were taken to court, there were demonstrations, and many other things. But we stood our ground, and today, the skyline of Kenya is changing. Go to anywhere in Kenya, from Busia, I was there last week, to Kisumu, to Migori, to Kuria, Kericho, Eldoret, Kitui. I was in Makueni. In fact, in Makueni, the senator of Makueni, who has been saying nothing is happening. So when I went with him to the housing, he was shocked that it was in Wote. And not just that, we have 640,000 young people working. Architects, engineers, plumbers, masons, and everybody in between. The debate was, oh, and the engineer, and the mason, and the carpenter. So if you go to university to learn engineering, civil engineering, electrical engineering, and all the other engineerings, mechanical engineering, and architects, the only place you will make meaning with what you have learned is Mjengo. There is no other place. If there is no Mjengo, you are useless. It's just as simple as that. Yesterday, I was in Thika. In Thika, in Kiambu alone, we are building 18,000 housing units at a cost of 45 billion in one county. There has never been an investment of 45 billion in one project in any county in Kenya. So we are changing. Today, the contracts we have signed on using the housing fund are contracts of 640 billion across Kenya. Hostels, for our university, houses in Kapsabet, I handed over. Houses in Kapsabet is that by next year, we will have a million. Because so we designed a program around. So we designed a program around and business process outsourcing. And today, in our ICT hubs, in our Jitume centers, in business process outsourcing, companies that are registered, and there are many. In fact, the largest business process outsourcing company in the world, called Teleperformer, just shifted to Kenya. To 300,000 people working now in that space. I remember one American company, ADEC, will be as part of the expansion of that footprint. And many more are stepping in because our human capital is good. Probably some of the best English anywhere in the world. But we say, and on and on and on. So on and on and on. So
hello,
our projection is that we should be able to appropriate at least 1 million young people working in our digital jobs space in the next between 1 and 2 years. We are extending the fiber optic because it's going to be a very important tool for that exercise around the country. We've already done 30,000 kilometers. Our plan is to have 100,000 kilometers so that business process outsourcing can be set up anywhere in Kenya. It doesn't have to be Nairobi. It doesn't have to be around Nairobi. We should be able to do that in many parts of our country. We also decided that because we have some of the best human capital in the world, that we use it as part of our export. And that is why Rosalind here has been working with me to clean up the channel for accessing jobs overseas. We had to clean up the system because we had too many brokers. We had many recruiting agencies that were crooked and defrauded many people their money. So we have registered close to 1,000 of those companies. So we have made it leaner, and we are still reorganizing that space. But just with what we have done, including cutting down on time to access travel papers, including passports and what have you. Today we have a clean channel for people who have employment opportunities abroad. Rosalind, it takes now how many days to get a passport if I have a job abroad? Two days. That's how long it takes, between 2 and 3 days. And as a result, mark this, as a result of what we have done in the last 3 years, 540,000 Kenyans have gotten jobs abroad, and our remittance from abroad has increased by $1 billion. Yes. So, and I can go on, but that's the space we are working with the young people of Kenya, including what we are doing to access to credit, the big program we have around Nyota, which is going to benefit close to 820,000 young people with skills, with startup resources. And this is all to make our country competitive. One more thing I need to tell you is to be able to reorganize our economy.
You're welcome to give him a clap as if
Economists will tell us, those who went to school
your permission yet?
and read economics. I did not. So it's on the basis of the information I get from them, is that investment
Allow me to invite
is a function of savings. You cannot invest what you don't have. And so we decided that we need to create a bigger pool of resources through savings, especially mandatory savings. And our National Social Security Fund, which is the public savings entity, was not properly aligned. And we did this with President Uhuru in 2015, I think. But there was a lot of manenos and things. But of course, when I came into office, I said, this is one area I must correct. We did implement it. Today, our country is making strides. Just for comparison, most OECD countries is anywhere around 40–45%. Is around 55%. Kenya is at 12. That's how much we save. Means we go to the restaurant, we go to the clothes store, and it's all done. So, so we changed the contribution structure, and in just 2 years, we have doubled what was saved at our Social Security for 60 years. what was saved for 60 years from 312 billion shillings in 2023. In 2025, we are at 670 billion. By next year, we will be at a trillion. In 5 years, in 10 years, we will not be borrowing from other places. We will be building this nation using our own savings and resources. That has earned me a few enemies, but many friends.
Yes, it is called the 19th.
But
Convenient. For us,
that is the progress we are making in our
we
nation.
are in a way
And we will continue. We will continue to stay focused
beckoning Your Excellency because externally
until we
going through tremendous
redeem every commitment we made in our manifesto to the people of Kenya,
how
so that we can demonstrate that what leaders say
But again, Your Excellency,
they must do.
a moment of reckoning because internally, through your leadership, you have someone
Having said that,
to
it is my
focus
expectation that
to an extremely progressive agenda.
the good people,
You have
because you are-
made a determination
you are our face,
that you want to take
you
this
are
nation
our ambassadors,
within our lifetime.
you are our
Your
frontline
Excellency, that's a gigantic task.
um,
And these
citizens, wherever it is that you are,
because they are your frontline.
on matters diaspora,
So mobilization
and given the immense opportunities being created through what I've just discussed,
to be able to
and working closely with the State
what
Department
our call of action
of Diaspora Affairs,
and how we must conduct
you should give it focus
these.
with a view to expanding new markets or expanding into new markets and new territories. At the same time, I expect the bilateral frameworks governing the employment of our citizens abroad to be strong, enforceable, and genuinely protective of their rights and their dignity. The third issue, after I have said what the situation looks like, so that you are properly briefed and seized of where we are. The third issue is that where we are today is a good place, but it is not the destination where we should be. We should look further.
Over the last 20 years,
And
because of your
we have identified
innovative ideas around finance,
3 areas that are important for us to focus on as we seek to lift our country to a first world status. And when I say lift our country to a first world status, it's not a statement. It is something that we must and should actualize, because it's possible for us to get this country to where it is, to where we should have it, rather. We have the intention and the PSA here that we want to make Nairobi the hub, the diplomatic hub of the world, and the commercial hub of our region. But that requires us to do some work. First, we have undertaken that we have to improve our transport and logistics infrastructure. All of you flew in from different parts of the world. You know very well, we do not have a proper airport. It is true, right? And we've been The building of a new airport terminal has been in the works, at least as far as I remember, the last 15 years. But I just want to give you the good news that we have now the template, we have the framework, and we have already gone to tender so that we can build a new modern airport for ourselves in Nairobi and subsequently in other parts of the country. We have to improve infrastructure around the country. As we build the Rironi-Mau Summit standard gauge, dual carriageway, before it gets to Mau Summit in April, May next year, we will have hopefully contracted the link from Mau Summit to Malaba, and we will have undertaken other transport corridors. The intention and the plan here is to do 2,500 kilometers of new dual carriageway in Kenya in the last 7 to 10 years, and to double our paved road. From independence to now, we have paved 20,000 kilometers of road, or tarmac, 20,000. That is in 60 years. In 60 years, Japan tarmacked 1 million kilometers. I think there is some difference between 20,000 and 1 million. I don't know how, whether it is small or a big difference. So what we want to do, we want to tarmac another 28,000 kilometers in Kenya in the next 10 years. And it's possible, and we're going to do it. If you go to any meeting in Kenya, somebody will ask you about a road. Anywhere. This road, and that road, and the other road, and the other road. We just have to do it. We cannot do it piecemeal. We cannot continue discussing 10 kilometers here, 20 kilometers there, 50 kilometers somewhere. We just have to have a comprehensive plan and do it, and have a plan and do it. So, and we need to sort out the port of Mombasa, we need to sort out all the other port infrastructure. That will require about between maybe 10 and 12 billion dollars. It's about 1.5 trillion or thereabout. So, but we're going to look for that money somehow. We will find it and do it. As we do that, you know, we have also to put up the facilities that can host people who want to come to Kenya. You know very well that the last serious conference facility that was done is Kenyatta International Conference Center, right? And it was started with the Harambee. The first meeting was to have a fundraising by some good Kenyans. But somehow, they managed to build it. It has served us well, but it cannot serve us going forward. And that is why we are building the Bomas of Kenya, which will be ready, by the way, in May. May this year. May this year. Yes. And with it, we have encouraged the private sector, and they've come through to do 3 big hotels, at least with a total bed capacity of 1,500 beds. You know, in Nairobi now, this is the biggest hotel facility we have. Just imagine this one. This space here where other people are standing, the wale wamesimama huko. We need to be serious, honestly. So, we need some real investment in hospitality industry in the country. And we are encouraging more people to come on board, and I'm very confident about the future. Whenever we have guests in Nairobi, you know, I have serious problems where to put them. Kempinski has become a small place. Intercont was shut down. The other place, Crown was shut down. And the other place. So why? Because we didn't build the conference facility infrastructure that would help support our hotel industry. And that is why, as diplomats, now that we will have a modern conference facility in Kenya, all those meetings that are being held in all those other places should be held in Nairobi. And we are banking on you to work with us so that we can redirect serious major conference facility to our country. We will be hosting the French Africa Summit here for the first time in Nairobi. And we have so many conference facilities lined up. It's very interesting that even before the conference facility in Bomas is ready, there is a long queue of people who want to use that facility. Number two, and of course, before I finish that, we need to sort out this city. My last meeting last evening was about the city of Nairobi and what we need to do in terms of cleaning it, making lighting Nairobi. Nairobi is very dark. Cleaning doing the place. We are the environmental capital of the world with UNEP here and Habitat. But if you go to Nairobi River, it has no indication that we have anything to do with the environment. And so we are sorting out Nairobi River. The good news, I just want to tell you, I have a date on the 15th of January next year. We will open up Nairobi River and you will see something very different. Yes. Then we will go to Ngong River and finally have Nairobi in a good place. The second thing we must do is to deal with hunger. We are still a very hungry country. It is very shocking. There are still too many people in Kenya who sleep hungry. Too many. Of course, it's because partly it's because 85% of Kenya is arid and semi-arid, but that is not a reason, because all those arid areas have very good soils. We have enough. They may not have rain, but with harvesting and storage, we can have enough water. So the next thing we are going to do, and it's going to begin this year, we are beginning with the first 15 mega dams this year, is to do water harvesting and storage and bring at least 2.5 million acres into production. First, to make sure that every person in Kenya has food. You know, there is nothing as demeaning, as dehumanizing as a person who is angry. So we need to deal with that. And then, of course, we are opening new markets for our products. We have concluded negotiations with one of the largest markets in the world, in China. We will now access the Chinese market duty-free, quota-free, for all agricultural products from tea, coffee, avocados, macadamia, and everything else. But we need to produce enough. We need to produce enough. What we are producing at the moment is not enough. We need to produce enough for us to be able to lift our economy. And finally, the third thing we need to do is to generate enough energy. We have a serious energy deficit. We have in our grid 3,300 megawatts. At the minimum, we need another 10,000. We need 3 times what we have at the minimum, if we have to undertake the transformation that is necessary to take our country to the next level. Today, the Ministry of Energy will tell you, every evening, on some peak hours, we have to do load shedding, you know. And what that does, it undermines our economy. Let me give you an example. I was in, what was the name of that place? In Diwa, I was in Diwa someplace. So we went there to commission a transmission line, 69 kilometers of transmission line, which we had built. And the information that we were given is that just because of that transmission line, the sales, electricity consumption, actually, in that particular area, very small area, had doubled because they had reliable energy. Which means there is a lot of potential out there, but it's constrained by the amount of energy that is available. Let me give you another example. I went to the US on the famous trip with President Biden when he invited me. And in this big ceremony, we signed a couple of MOUs and programs. And one of them was on data centers, you know, the technology that brings data centers on board. And we signed with Microsoft, Kenya, and a company from the UAE called G42. And I was very happy with it because it was going to be an investment of $1 billion in Kenya to set up the first ever green data center. Until I arrived in Kenya, and when the process started, I was told, Mr. President, for us to implement this project, we need 1,000 megawatts of energy. Okay? So what does that mean? That I shut down half the country to implement this one project. Because if you have 3,000 megawatts and one project wants 1,000, so it was not possible for us to implement this $1 billion project. And there are many other investment opportunities that we are losing because we do not have enough energy. And that is why we have to be innovative. All the 3 programs I've just said, which are really the basic minimum for us as a country to lift ourselves, requires about $40 billion or 5 trillion Kenyan shillings. That's what we need. And that is why we have with my team, we have sat down, we have looked at what other countries have done, what has worked elsewhere, what is best practice, and we have created a channel for us to be able to do this. We have to mobilize our own domestic resources. We have to create the correct framework for us to leverage on private money. That is why public-private partnership is a big thing. We are lucky that in Kenya we have a working capital markets ecosystem. Our Nairobi Stock Exchange is one of the best assets that we have. It was the second best stock exchange in the African continent. So we have a real tool for us to be able to leverage private sector money, both locally and globally. And that is the reason why we have set up the National Infrastructure Fund, so that we can use it to mobilize domestic resources through our mature assets like Kenya Pipeline, Safaricom and others. And already the National Infrastructure Fund, we have raised the first 100 billion using the Kenya Pipeline IPO. We will raise another 2.5, at least 2 billion in the next coming months, 2-3 months, and we will move on, and it will be possible for us to leverage that money, use private sector money, deploy using our capital markets, raise more resources from other sources, use our pension funds and others who have a lot of patient money, but they are lacking opportunities to invest. And that is why they are crowded at the treasury bills and buying bonds and what. So we're going to look at that space. And I'm very excited that very many people are coming forward who are very quiet. And they're saying we have opportunity, we can support here, we have money to help you do this, we have resources. Just give us the right structure, we're going to invest. To be able to have these three work out, we need another 3 enablers. Number one is to up our game in science, innovation, technology, so that we can create the right caliber of people who can assist us with new knowledge on how we take our country to the next level. A country cannot develop beyond its capacity to think. Yes. Yeah, it's just as simple as that. If your thinking goes up to here, that's the end. You cannot. So, and that's why I brought this good man, Professor Shokat from IEA, to come and head our State Department for Science, Research, Innovation. Please see them. Because we need those people. We need these people who, you know, we have a good education system, but we need a higher caliber of thinkers, people who can work with us so that they can help us do the right things. Today, I am the leader of this great nation, but I can tell you, everything I have implemented, it is not just my thoughts. I have pulled a lot of knowledge from very intelligent people who are more intelligent than me.
Sasa nikwambia kwa nini nimekupigia masimu 1000.
I've had to leverage
So,
on their intelligence to be able to drive the country forward.
Maybe live stream ya Lilian.
Because
sasa nikwambie
it is said
mimi niliingia like kuangalia walikuwa washatoka like ni kama tena walikuwa kitu kama break. So wameweka hii nitwaje? Sema kitu kama hiyo logo yao kwenye mnaweza tu ni ministry of hapo juu. Napata wekele hapo juu. So imekuwa hivyo like for the longest time. So vile wamerudi ndio nikaweka immediately. Hakuwa kitu nimeona nimewekwa. Siko nimeona kama anything imewekwa. Juu hapa sasa niko mbele like siwezi nini. Kwenda pale napata live zingine. Hai, nikajiuliza kwanza iko na Aida. Hii ni live gani? Kuangalia naona yako nyuma, like ako nyuma. Ako kwa live, ako kwa speech ya Mudavadi, niko kwa Ruto, like Mudavadi ashamaliza. Tuko kwa Ruto sasa hii. Hai, mimi nikamaliza, nika end. Hai, kuangalia ndo napata akiwa live, ndio nikajiambia guys.
Umeregesha?
Ajarudisha.
Oh, that's nice.
because
Umepost hiyo speech ya Mudavadi.
Yaani nishaweka na huyo mwingine sasa ni ya huyu imebaki, amalize. Tunaona ameongea almost 1 hour.
we have
Ameongea 1 hour
all
by the
our
way.
countries around us.
Asha kama umenipigia.
Security
Mimi mwenyewe niliamsha na leo na stress.
up our game.
Nini? Amekupigia akikwambia nini yeye
We are
ameenda?
modernizing
Amekupigia?
our
Charles.
police infrastructure.
Gosh,
We are
akakwambia?
modernizing our
Jana
defense
hapo na video
infrastructure.
kuposti nikamwambia niko na piki yangu.
Bringing new ways of doing things
Akasema?
to do
Hata kuniambia wewe ningemwambia sijui.
much more intelligence-led, less about
Mimi mbona
brute force,
ameniambia siku yangu asubuhi.
more about intelligence, more about targeting the right places.
Video gani?
Nikamuuliza gani?
And so,
Karibu sasa mwisho
we'll be
supposed to be
seeing
mine nikamwambia
some of
tafuta
the areas
boyfriend.
we will be
Ndani mambo ni mta.
putting our resources in.
Kisha Palm Sunday.
And then finally, we have to reorganize our software.
Mi by the way nilikuwa like literally yeah oni nishaweka na ako late.
We need to believe in
Nilipigwa
ourselves.
simu unajua sasa
You know, you listen to some people, you think they have a spare country. They talk about Kenya as if they, I mean, this is our country. This is us. We must believe in ourselves. We can do it.
So ndio
Ourselves.
nimeeleza sasa huyu ni kumaanisha jaona ama na mbona ameweka.
Sometimes I get amazed as to how people believe in us more than we believe in ourselves.
Thank you for telling me that ameweka uko shy.
You know, I sat at this conference this week in
Na sasa yote mwenye alikuwa ana
at Radisson Blu, and I listened to the country director of the World Bank talk about Kenya. I listened to one gentleman, an investor in BPO, talk about Kenya. I listened to one lady, she runs, I think, Flamingo Flower something.
Sasa ongea na
But
mtaki
talk
kuongea naye.
about Kenya.
I feel like
And
okay,
I was
kama
amazed
umeanza
as
kitu
to
can you be timely with it?
how
Like
other
can you
people
stronger with it
think
like the
about
way
us.
it is. Acha
They were
nikuonyeshe.
thinking about,
Unaona post.
talking about
Yeah, ameposti kitu moja.
how good our human capital is, how innovative our people are, how hardworking we are as a people, you know. But you listen to some of our
Sasa yeye
leaders,
amechukua pa state of. Mimi sijatoa state
and
of.
you understand, some others have even the audacity to say, oh, you know, we are a failed state. Really?
Ndio nimekuwa natumia. So unajua yeye amekuja ile tunajua hawakukuwa
Where?
live like wameingia ile venye huyo
You
amekuja.
know,
So
and
acha
you want to be a
nikwambie.
leader in this country, you want to be a leader of a failed state.
Mtu mimi sipendi kuwekelea vitu zenye haziko.
Namuelewa. I can understand.
So,
Sipendi hiyo ujinga. ni-
good people,
Sasa hii
and I
huyo
will tell
amekapatia
this
nani?
to the people of Kenya proudly. We are a great nation. We are a great people. We can do it. Let us believe in ourselves. Let us stop the negativity. Let us stop the negativity about our country. Let's project the real,
No.
the reality of who we are. You know,
It's okay.
Sasa shida ni unaona vile wanafanyanga State House inaanza kuimba inakaa kama wana so ilikuwa hivi.
believe in ourselves,
Yeah,
believe in our nation, and that is really going to
Sasa
make
niko
a hell
40
lot
minutes nishaanza kunini.
of a
Wewe yako ni
difference.
29 minutes.
But
Tumekuwa
slowly,
11 minutes.
I think we are getting ourselves there.
I hope hata nigeuzia ngori because sasa mimi hizo
There are
maneno
people who are saying
sitakangi
nothing is happening in
completely.
Kenya.
Ye kama amekasirika juu alipatikana
Today,
sokoni akatijana sasa sioni mambo
Their
yake.
voices are going down because they can see something is happening in
Na
our country.
nikasema hata nikupigie vile ni watu
We will
atiko.
continue to
Maybe
be
yes.
Nikajua ni yeye
and
amekupigia.
I will continue to lead from the front.
Ulikuwa line busy.
Ukanipigia na wewe sijui nini. But let me tell you something. If you see something yenye hajafanya fit.
So let me, I think I've been carried away a bit. But let me say this. I really needed to talk to you because
Nduko
you
hali
are
maututi.
the people who will talk about our country out there.
Niko like
Project
guy.
the right
Sawa basi.
Najua nimepigwa kwa sababu
Our
si kufanya
nation.
shit ya Monica Juma. Jana mimi kwa skate of
You know, let's get the right image
Monica
of
Juma
Kenya.
ni nani?
Kenya is not
Monica
about
Juma ni
chaos.
nani?
Monica
Kenya is not
Juma.
about
Mhm.
destruction. Kenya is not about all those other things.
Amedu.
We are a serious
sana
nation.
konjo kwa sijui UN na basi
Very
hata
serious
kifaa
nation.
hiyo shit kaya.
And many
Aliappointiwa
people
lini
believe
tena?
us. Just for the record,
Tango sasa jana ilikuanga inauguration yake. Oh my days. Hapo najua ni best time. Maybe ni best
G7
time.
is going to have its meeting shortly.
Most probably.
Yeah.
Sasa mlizo mbona haijapostiwa.
And the chair of the G7 this year is going to be France. And they have invited
Niliona na
Kenya
nikaenda
to
nyumbani.
speak on behalf of this continent.
Kwa nimetoka ba.
Lakini sasa utajua.
Kwa nimetoka. There's something my dad
That is how
usually tell
serious
me.
we are.
Hakuna job iko worthy your life.
So please,
Bye.
let us believe in ourselves.
Mimi naona tu mtu tu ukipata chance ukishaona umefika mwisho na umefanya almost everything.
Finally,
Nijaribu kubishana na mimi akajua nikibishana na yeye atakuta kazi zake.
you should know with clarity
Naona
that Kenya
bila
will
Kariuki
remain
amefika.
firmly committed to playing its leadership role
Ni mbaya
as a
msee.
regional, continental,
So maybe ameambia Charles kuna mwenye
and
ameenda.
global participant. We
Anaweza
are
mwambia kweli?
proud
Usiogope.
and responsible members of the
Nakutetea.
international community, and we will continue
guys
to
are
act
very
with purpose in shaping
Mungu
a
umeweka.
more just, inclusive, and effective global order. In response to evolving global realities, we will
Alafu sasa nilikwambia hii nini hapa
a
like si rahisi nijue
and pragmatic foreign
content yenye iko on ni nini ndio
We will
hata
engage
niona hata hizo
partners
video
across all
zimepostia
regions
kwako
on the
by
basis of mutual respect
si yangu kuna vile
and shared benefit, while
sijajoana nayo
remaining
kabisa
steadfast
kabisa.
in advancing our sovereignty, preserving our strategic autonomy,
Sidhani kama
and
kuna kitu
securing our
ingine iko live.
long-term national interests. We will persist in defending multilateralism while championing the reform of multilateral institutions, including the United Nations Security Council, so that they become more representative, more responsive, and truly fit for purpose. Nairobi, as the only United Nations headquarters in the global south, carries both prestige and responsibility.
Ndio nasema venye nimeona hii.
Kenya must
Nilikuwa
therefore
naweza
work
nione.
with other countries,
Katika
especially in the
hii
global
uone venye
south,
imejaa ni very fast.
to ensure that
Maybe
their
sasa
voice,
hawakuwa live.
perspectives,
Wameingia tu
and
immediately.
priorities are
Unajua ilikuwa
effectively
imeshaanza
advanced
ile wakajiintroduce
in the
nini,
international
nini,
forum.
nini, nini. Alafu sasa
We look
wakapotea
forward to
wakiwa
hosting, as I say, two landmark global engagements
sikujua
that
kama
will
Aida
underscore
mwenyewe
Kenya's
So,
growing role as
Nifanye
a
hiyo
convener
Monica Juma.
of
nini
consequential
haswa ni video ama ni nini?
international
Ilikuwa live
dialogue.
jana usiku.
In May, we will host the Africa France Summit, the first to be held outside the Francophonie, providing a strategic platform to reframe Africa's partnership with France in trade, investment, and industrial cooperation on the basis of parity and
Wanakuanga na
mutual
cheap
respect.
things.
In June,
So hiyo ni kama ni how
Kenya
much?
will also
Gee.
host the 11th
Inakwanga
Our Oceans
yote.
Conference in Mombasa and
150.
Kilifi,
Basi ni
the
wote.
first ever on African soil,
And then kuna ile
bringing
ingine
together
kuna
governments,
ingine ya
civil society, and the private
ingine
sector
ya
to
100
advance
lakini
marine
wanadai
conservation,
kuna
the
kuna
blue
na
economy,
inakwanga ite.
climate resilience, and ocean governance while creating
Zenye
real
sielewangi ni mbona
opportunities
wamepanga kukisiza
for our communities and for our economies.
Imagine wanauzanga in grams na alafu wanauza.
By the way wanauzanga hivyo hadi tao.
Alafu kuna place mimi nauzanga na nunanga kukia 5 bob na ni tamu
Kenya's
kuliko hiyo yao.
voice and help
Sikuizi wanauzanga na nyetwaje?
our global engagements
Hiyo grams.
with a focus
Ndio ulipia.
on Kenya's national interest.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
To show our solidarity and support.
Let me reiterate as I conclude. When called upon, Kenya will continue to rise to the occasion in support of global peace and security. Our leadership in international and regional engagements, such as the deployment of our police officers to Haiti and active involvement through the AU and other regional organizations in the DRC, South Sudan, Somalia, and elsewhere reflects our steadfast commitment to global stability, solidarity, and shared responsibility. As the champion of the reform of the African Union institutions, we will continue to actively advance this agenda of strengthening the AU's institutional capacity and strategic relevance. We are equally committed to deepening regional integration as a cornerstone of our foreign policy. Kenya will continue to advance cooperation within the East African community.
Nimesema tu nipige mali ndio mimi atanielewa juu. Hakuna mtu mwingine anaweza kuwa answerable tu. Wewe tu nikwambie huyu mtu wangu. Sikatai aliyeka ile kikianza, juu mimi nilipata nimefika hapo kwa hizo manini nimekwambia sikatai aliyeka ikianza sikatai. But sasa inaendelea na the most important thing ishaanza na hujaweka. Do you know the first thing ilikuwa ni introduction, walikuwa wanajiintroduce. Kujiintroduce ilikuwa na uburi gani?
As the chair of the Committee of African Heads of States on climate change, we are driving our continent's collective voice and ambition in global climate negotiations. Our foreign policy framework set out in sessional paper number 1 of 2025 is anchored on a whole of government and a whole of society approach. Our diplomacy must remain rooted in everyday interests of Kenyans, the farmer seeking better prices, the worker abroad in need of protection, and the entrepreneur seeking access to new markets. I urge you to lead and to serve it unwavering dedication. You occupy positions of both high privilege and responsibility. As we work here at home to transform our country, you are the face, you are the voice, and the standard of Kenya beyond our borders.
Alafu anakimbia kupigia hata sijaribu kutafuta namba yangu mimi.
That responsibility, integrity, conviction,
namba yake inaanza na nini na nini?
sense of purpose.
Ndio sikumpea namba yangu.
Mama tu nishike juu sasa.
It is my distinct pleasure to declare the 19th edition of Ambassador's Conference.
Ndio sikubala kumwambia jana.
Ikiwa imeisha by the way, nika imeisha.
Post picha yako.
Ayani. Ruto. Ni post. Oh, speech. Jehovah.
Kama mongea vitu za maana juu ndio utasikia
Thank you very much.
kasa.
Thank you again, Your Excellency, for your
Ameongea 1 hour
elaborate
30 minutes.
visionary statements. I know that my sister, Rosalie Jogo, is going to give a vote of thanks. But ahead of her doing that, with utmost humility, Your Excellency indulges
Na hiki tu sauti yake iko
to
chini.
listen to a brief presentation on what we are doing, just to give you a foretaste of what we are doing on digital infrastructure for commercial diplomacy from Felix Shege, the founder and CEO of Resources Africa, and Dr. James Mwangi, the Group Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Equity Group Holdings. Let's put our hands together first to Felix and then to
will add significant value.
Ensures that trade and investment prospects are documented, monitored, and pursued systematically.
Our main goal is having one particular ecosystem that can leverage on the trust and the credibility that has been built over time through our missions to be able to drive trade, investment, financing, labor, and most importantly, to be able to move this continent forward.
While we begin with our missions, our ambition is continental. We see this as a shared infrastructure for African cooperation, and we invite our sister countries to join us on this journey.
Kitu ukitumia my friend is not easy. It's not easy now. It's
Standing
not
on all
easy.
protocols.
Hai? Na leo mbona nilikatanga hiyo story?
I'd like to just make a brief presentation on basically what we're doing.
As a leading representative of the region in global affairs. Notably, Ambassador Juma becomes the highest ranking Kenyan
Sasa hiyo kitu ni ya jana ama ni ya leo sasa?
system.
Nini usiku?
We?
She also becomes the second African
In 2024, for a period of 12 months. Having done 315 containers along the way, we realized a few challenges. One of the major challenges was basically unstructured demand.
and international
Second challenge,
Kuitumia kitu bana ni ngumu msee. Ai. Dino
Poor
ye.
policy clarity,
Same.
deal assurance, limited
Where?
access to market, and finally,
Mimi ndipo nasikia nimetoka.
sustainable market presence.
Alafu dada yangu kuniambia
And most importantly,
tunafaa kwa watu
we realized
wawili.
this.
Mmoja anasikiza live stream, he
That
give
most of
brain
our
a break.
traders,
Mwangalie tu kwa
most of our SMEs,
mganga
investors,
kwa hiyo sio.
first go to embassies to seek for either information about
Hiyo
Kenya as a
haiwezi
country
imagine.
before they really look at coming into the country. We realized that
Hiyo
our
kitu venye nataka mtu tu ajisikilizie kila kitu
3,500 inquiries.
unless kuna anything yenye ni ujapata
And less than 1% of
mwenzako
these
atakwambia,
inquiries
lakini
are actually
kusikiliziana ni ngori.
meaning that as a country, the opportunities are there. People are interested to access these opportunities, but unfortunately, we do not have the digital infrastructure to enable us to
Jehova
structure and
Shama.
actually implement some of these inquiries.
as Minister for
In partnership with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we went ahead to develop digital platforms.
for energy.
One by the name Biashara Link. Biashara Link is a digital platform that looks at trying to capture these inquiries digitally from our embassies, being able to structure them, and finally supporting the execution and having a scientific or data-driven approach to how we are running our policy work or how we're able to guide on which markets we need to target all our
For
SMEs.
Africa, UNECA. She was also a member of the United Nations Secretary General
That is the Biashara Link.
high-level panel
The main capabilities of the Biashara Link is to capture,
keeping
to
mission.
validate, to track,
These were
and close each and every inquiry that comes from our missions, and to make sure that the economic diplomacy agenda of the Republic of Kenya is actually achieved.
that Ambassador Juma
After all these inquiries are captured, we have to close, we have to execute, and we build the deal house. The deal house supports 6 structured processes, which looks at validating these inquiries, structuring these inquiries, matchmaking these inquiries with the SMEs or counterparties, supporting negotiations through a deal room, and finally supporting the closure of these inquiries.
finance and technology.
These inquiries, we well know,
Congratulations to you.
will have to have a human component to support execution. In partnership with the University of Nairobi, we came up with a program
Mandate
of entities or individuals called deal stewards. These are
Facebook hii
orchestrators.
hapa
These are
haijalogiwa
individuals who
in.
handhold and guide each and every inquiry, support with the advisory of just making sure that these entities who are making these inquiries are able to get the support that is required.
Email.
At the moment, Your Excellency, we've been able to roll this out.
Natumia email
We have
gani?
70 young people who've been supporting execution of these inquiries. We've trained
Oh,
150 and currently
Jekara.
looking at deploying 1,000
Uzalendo
of them
News.
before the end of the year.
Uzalendo News 24.
I also take this moment
At the sidelines,
Oh,
the AU heads of
the
state summit,
something.
in partnership with the Ministry
So
of
unaona
Foreign Affairs,
mbili.
we were able to deploy this out.
Kuna
We were
ingine
able to make a
refu na kuna
presentation
ingine ya
towards a
kwanza.
couple of ministers across the
Kuna
continent, and the
the
reception was
something.
actually immense.
Si ndizo hizi mbili? Kuna hii
The
na kuna
output
hii.
of what we're trying to achieve, Your
So
Excellency,
which is which?
is to support your agenda. How can we create more jobs? Through creating demand for our exports. How can we increase our industrialization via supporting the demand that needs to be created? And finally, but not least, is how can we create more job opportunities for our young people? Last but not least, Your Excellency,
Kwanza vile nilikuwa nimeona kitu akiadidi
in this
kaji. Sasa
case,
huyu aki anatakaje?
I gave a story.
Anatakaje
I was presenting a story of David and Goliath.
In
this case, I present you
I'm just
Who
one
has
man
been the
to
David?
hata sijamaliza mwezi
the
bado.
sling itself
The
being
job
the
and she wants
National
to stress me.
our embassies,
no.
in the stones,
No
and
way.
seeking
Aye.
Sometimes it's
guidance as we sling this out towards the other African countries, and with the stewardship as the chair of the AFCFTA Implementation Committee under the AFCFTA.
Maybe wataleta maji leo.
This is one of the
Sasa
initiatives, Your Excellency, that we're looking at using to be able
Nimeandika no, amesema Bomas will be ready by May this year. Amesema Bomas will be ready by May this year.
cut hiyo.
Wetele, hapa hata nitakata aje mwana ako.
Hakuna Premier Pro.
Hiyo itumiangi Premier Pro inakwanga ni
Your Excellency, the President of
inakwanga
the
final cut.
served, infrastructure alone
Unajua kusema final
is
cut.
not sufficient.
I think naweza
Essentially, we have
kuja mbili
partnered
tatu.
with
Siko mbaya sana
Trade
but
Connect,
ni ngori mzee, ni ngori.
payment layer.
Hatari. Hiyo Wednesday au kuangi hata siwezi fungua hii mashine hata nisikudanganye.
We have signed with for trade. Broadly, what we do is an interoperable payment ledger. On top of that, Your Excellency, we have layered a layer of financial products. We
Utadownloadia hapo. Utadownloadia hapo ikishani. Ndio nikatakatie huku pale sijui kutumia nini.
ensure that trade has no barriers. Essentially, Your Excellency,
Huku hata sidhani kama nakumbuka. Hata nilitumia nikiwa sekondia wewe na sikumbuki. Sidhani kama nakumbuka everything. We, si nimekwambia mimi sijaifikiria kama nitaifa na editing. So,
as Felix said, we want this system. But how do we ensure we have the infrastructure you talked about, the market? Kenyan entrepreneurs can import them and then distribute the market. Your Excellency, I think where we to speak in your presence was to see with the Kenyan ambassadors. We give them a dashboard such that they home
kuna mtu
and
ameongea hapa na
respond
simjui.
appropriately.
Na ashamaliza. Tadu?
Sign your diplomat's responsibility without
Cabinet Secretary Rebecca Miano,
a KPI to performance on promoting trade. I listened keenly as Excellency spoke. And the subject matter, I thought we would talk about the whole
Pengine kama
time
ujue
was
tena na
about
wako. Unless
geopolitics.
wage kitu ya maana.
And only one point out minute geopolitics and quick research to the economic creating the platform. If I summarize broadly what he talked about, he went quickly to the state of our economy, whether it is reserves, whether it's months of import loading reserves, whether it's and whether it's the GDP and the size of the economy
What? Paka kuje.
of their lives or the economic activities it is that creates employment. it's economic activities that create wealth. And if we could give you support to be the face of the country in promoting export. The research he talks about is in foreign colors. We only earn it if we trade or we receive investment.
Ordinarily, when a reception is...
It touched me when you talked about savings. It's validly appreciated that a country can never be better than its savings because Your Excellency, you were very generous. Before you became president, the savings
Extra.
from 8 to 12. And you can imagine what that will mean. 55 for China, mine is 53. So broadly. But you can see what it has done for the last 30 years. I think savings to GDP, and that is what the world saying. It is really a great portion, the truth is,
to express my heartfelt gratitude, my confidence expressed in my ability to take out
to those invested, because every time at the end of the year dividend,
and Director General of UNOB. And I thank you all for your it is also my hope that I can count
on the owners of investment. Let me give a few examples.
I am both joyful and
diplomatic convergence of diplomacy and later state lunch and when the president of Mozambique, the first business of the order was come through
and therefore less adventurous.
Opened a door for this young man. That was the first order of just to report on the week of 27th of April.
The UNODC is mandated to assist nations to address the challenges of
person who can't get such an appointment in a country. On our ambassador. That's the only way. What did that I was endorsed by my country. And good.
Compelling solutions to afflictions of an international dimension. The success of UNODC is hinged on strong cooperation.
But the diplomats, that's the favor. I must say, Your Excellency, we could lead it.
Regional, national, and local government. So I come to this position with a strong belief
Uncle is proper that your ambassador
Hebu nisikizie huyo mwenye anaongea saa hii kama unaweza kuwa unamjua.
Aje introduce akikuja hapo kwa stage.
Si amefika niko huku na nimepata sha introduce already, nimemweka akianza kuongea.
It was not a Kenyan hub.
Unfortunately.
It was a regional hub. And you can see, apologize because we talked with you have worked very highly with France. The one France First Conference in Kenya on France Africa Summit. What would this mean to Kenya from a business point of view? Your Excellency, the French government has appointed me to be the chair of the private sector and lead the private sector to come to Nairobi. But that is not the sweet thing, Your Excellency. Because we have pushed it to Ambassador. What will be left in Kenya? And Your Excellency, I don't know, there's something I thought you could be project. I went to France and said, what will we really make money on, that France understand. And we said, what about if we made tea, convert tea from a commodity to a lifestyle? And we worked with Validity, the largest tea importer of specialty tea. And we brewed with Kenyan tea in form of wine. Then we invited them here. We created 16 specialty teas. Your Excellency, we have offered that during the state dinner on that day, you allow us to mix French wine and Kenyan tea for toasting. And in partnership between the private sector and the public sector, Your Excellency, and we could be willing to sponsor the entire dinner in appreciation of fronting the tea farmers. When we did the 16 products, we ended up negotiating a price of between $80 and $100 per kilo. That would be about 3,000 to 4,000 shillings per kilo of green tea. And broadly, what they will be willing to sign on that day is to open 249 shops in Europe to all stock Kenyan specialty tea. Your Excellency, you have done very well. 100 plus shillings per kilo, but this transaction would Kenyan tea trade at between 3,000 and 4,000 shillings per kilo. To require us to do the GI or geographical, we need to pass the law, and then the president of France has said he would toast with you. He will be holding the Kenyan tea, will be holding it and say an alternative to wine, to French wine is the Kenyan tea. And Mr. President, now you will not be toasting with water. You will be so easy with that. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
I have no doubt in my mind that this social and
Thank you very much. Dr. Monk is a hard act to follow. So, Your Excellency, allow me to stand on protocols already established. I am just here to move a vote of thanks. It is not customary for us to speak after you have spoken, sir, but I'm told there is always time for Thanksgiving. So allow me to give thanks. I'm honored really to move this vote of thanks, Your Excellency, following your amazing and very impactful address that has called us all to action around your 4 imperatives. Imperative that when we project Kenya, we do so from a place of strength, that the Kenyan government is committed to its people through the better plan. You've given us your 3 focus areas as we move towards the first world. And finally, Your Excellency, you have told us that we continue to be committed to leadership in the international community, showing the world how to do this. Your Excellency, allow me then to thank you for this amazing speech, because we have received our marching orders. Have we received our marching orders or not? Hata tukifunga conference sasa, Your Excellency, I am not proposing that we do. But even if we did, Your Excellency, we have our marching orders. It is clear. We have been called by our capital and we have instructions on how to proceed. We are grateful, Your Excellency, for your leadership. You lead with commitment. You lead with a clarity of vision. And not just, Your Excellency, in leading on national interests, but in leading in calling your people together to make sure that they have understood where it is that you want us to do. And we are very grateful for that. I think we can clap for His Excellency for that. Your Excellency, I want to thank my boss, Waziri PCS, who leads with heart and finds time to delve into things at depth. I want to thank my brother PSC. Your Excellency, you said that Kenyans speak the best English anywhere in the world. Not just fluent in English, but fluent in diplomacy. I want to thank Excellency the partner, not just fluent in English, but fluent in diplomacy. I want to thank Excellency, the partners who are here, Felix Chege and Dr. James Mwangi, for the amazing work of private sector. I want to thank our ambassadors, high commissioners who are here, Your Excellency. This is, as you said, frontline officers, our team on the ground. I can confirm and allow me to do so because it is not every day that people get to you about these people. But let me say, Your Excellency, you have a good team on the ground. Wameelewa kazi. And I say that because they carry the flag with honor, with dignity, and serve not just our country, but our diaspora with much commitment. Many of them do call me, well after midnight, Your Excellency, when there are challenges around the diaspora. They are very committed, and I really want to acknowledge all of you in front of our bosses here. I want to finally thank the organizers of this conference. I know there's a team that has worked very hard to put this together. I want to thank them because ukiona vyaelea vimeundwa, and the entire team of the Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, who are really the people who make this work. And finally, Your Excellency, colleagues, I want to thank God for allowing us all to gather here, because in Him we move and have our being. Mike, yes? Mike, maybe you can give us now instructions around what to do next. Thank you very much. Thank you, Excellency.
Thank you, PS Roslyn. Your Excellency, with your permission, we are coming to the end of this session. We just seek your indulgence for a few photos, and because of time, we'll do them in region. So with your permission, Your Excellency, allow me to invite the Prime Cabinet Secretary and the two PSs, PS Singoe and PS Roslyn, to come on stage. Then we'll start with Africa, and this is ambassadors only from the region of Africa to kindly come on stage and take a quick picture with His Excellency. We'll do that in regions. I'll also request that we move this podium so that we have enough space. So Africa, you're first on the list.
We framed and drove the plan, the transformation agenda for this administration. These 3 years for me have been unflattering, but among the most deep and humbling for me in terms of the realization of what driving change entails. It has been a journey about the risks necessary
Anaitwa James Mwangi.
even
Nimemtafuta Google, my friend.
Okay, let's do half. Let's have, apart from PS and PCS, the rest of us, let's come down so that we have less on stage. We split. The rest of us, let's spread to this side. We're doing half. So the rest of us, this way.
Where I have always reflected and dreamt, where dreams have come alive. The numerous team dreamers whose agile and restrained, eager and purposeful, youthful people have made things happen. Starting with Team Addis. Team Addis, Lemon, Mercy, Kiverino, where are they? Ngeno and others. With them, we lit a flame in Addis that shines today.
All right, so those on stage can come down. Africa, we'll do part 2 of Africa.
Deputy Head of Public Service, Amos Gabeta.
Let's all exit to your left. Exit to your left. Those who are exiting to your left.
The officers in immigration and across, including the women's SWAT team in the National Police Service. The Ngao officers all the way to the lowest level stand out as some of my key motivators in my journey, and I remain their strong cheerleader. Team MFA is a large one. All the officers there, I think I remember them fondly. But I wish to
all right.
My
exit to your left. I see they've created a part 3
now ambassadors, Moni
of
Manyang,
Africa.
Vivian, Christine, and many, many others. I fondly recall the young team that executed an incredible campaign for the Commonwealth SG.
Please, let's do the greetings later, kindly. Let's do the greetings later. We need to fast track this, please. And next, we are going to do Europe. So Europe, if we can all go to the left of the stage, right now. Europe, let's go to the left of the stage in waiting.
And several others. Together, we received the strategic guidance and transformed the idea into an institution. We have built an institution with a vision, with a doctrine, with work path, and that is delivering on its
All right. All right, we're done with Africa. We now go to Europe. Let's exit to your right, please. Exit to your right. Exit to your right kindly and use the aisle to take your seat. While exiting, kindly let's all exit using the right of the stage, and we use the aisles to
security, energy, finance, law, humanity, media.
Si ndio wanapiga picha ama ni majitoe?
All right, exit to your right. Exit on your right.
Okay, atapigwa picha na
Exit to the right, but two of you comes in.
Acha nikate. Ima kupiga picha and stuff is important, no?